started now. So to all the attendees, once again, thank you so much for dialing in. We're so excited to kick this session off and get into the panel discussion today. But before we do that, we'll take a quick minute to talk to you about what NSRCEL does and how this panel discussion aligns with the larger programs that we run at NSRCEL. So NSRCEL, for everyone who has not joined us at a previous webinar or event before, is the incubation arm of IIM Bangalore, and we run incubation programs perennially, and they are bifurcated based on usually the stage of the venture, or either we have sector focused programs, or even the profile of the entrepreneur. That is, if you are a woman entrepreneur or if you're someone who is working in the social impact space. So we run about 12 program tracks in a year, and we do multiple cohorts under these program tracks. Should you want to know more about our programs, please go ahead to our website, nsrcel.org. And to talk to you about one of those programs today, I have my colleague Akshay, who will be talking to you about the Mobility Incubation Program that we do in partnership with Maruti Suzuki India. Akshay, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Um, Imagine you are a startup focused on B2B and trying to crack exact B2B sales. It is a hard task. It's a game of patience, it's a game of stakeholder engagement, building trust. For a startup who is trying to juggle up with a lot of things, building a great B2B funnel is a mammoth task. And in this light, NSRCEL has partnered with Maruti Suzuki India Limited to bring incubation program for mobility startups, where we help startups in the incubation journey, and at the same time, the startups get the opportunity to get a POC with Maruti Suzuki. That who it is for. The program is for startups innovating in mobility and allied sector. Now, when I'm saying mobility, most of you will be thinking about the car and imagining solutions related to the car. But is it just about the car? That's not so. It is uh, car and allied sectors which Maruti Suzuki India Limited can consume internally. The focus areas can be around green manufacturing, vehicle tech, AI, Industry 4.0, clean tech. Let me give an example to break the jargon that I'm trying to speak. We have a startup called Bulu, which helps women find clean toilets when they're outside home. It's a biggest problem in India, especially you are traveling on the road. Bulu was a part of this incubation program, and they have won the POC with Maruti Suzuki India Limited. They will be part of the Maruti ecosystem. And imagine you are driving on a highway and want to have an access to a clean toilet. You will go to the Ulu app, and then you can get access to this toilet. So Vulu, a startup which is trying to solve a very niche problem, has got an opportunity to work with a big client like Maruti Suzuki. This is what this program offers. What else we offer at NSRCEL? Through this incubation program, we will help you through your go-to-market strategy, business model, finance, and governance. Let me give another example to break this down. Through Assist, which helps disabled or Divyang people to get access to the seat in the car. Imagine you are sitting in a wheelchair and want to sit in the car seat. You will need someone's help to put you in that car seat. But through True Assist, you will not need anyone's support, and you can move to the car seat comfortably. This is a very niche problem that True Assist is trying to solve, and currently they're working with Maruti Suzuki to bring this into the Maruti Suzuki car. This is another example. So don't imagine this as a problem solutions which can go in the car. It can be something which can be consumed internally by Maruti Suzuki to solve different problems. Um, and in the past, we had three cohorts. We have incubated 80 plus startups in this. Six of them have gone POC. In the current cohort, 14 are going to the are in the POC pipeline. Few of them are going to get a chance to do a paid POC at scale. And you can be the next startup who is going to work with the Maruti Suzuki India Limited, and you will get a support from NSRCEL for the incubation. So it's a rare opportunity where a B2B client like Maruti Suzuki is putting a red carpet in front of you, and there is NSRCEL helping you to walk on that red carpet in a proper attire and whatever the support that is required to make sure that it's one of the fantastic walk on the red carpet. What's the deadline for the program? It's the December second week. Please scan the code and apply for the program. Uh, I eager to see you on the other side of the table. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Akshay. And now to talk to you all about Maruti. We have our colleague from the Maruti team. Drishti, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Samhita. Hi, everyone. A very good evening to you all. As we're witnessing today, the Indian automobile market is experiencing rapid transformation and development, and the need for innovation and cost-effective solutions has never been greater. So at Maruti Suzuki, we run multiple startup programs for different stage of startups. And our focus with such Maruti Suzuki startup programs is to be an integral part of the larger innovation ecosystem. We aim to identify disruptive technologies at their earliest stages and provide the necessary support to help them scale. Incubation Program for Mobility Startups is one such unique initiative which is designed to engage with early stage startups working on high risk and disruptive technologies. And by partnering with the prestigious IIM Bangalore's Incubation Cell, NSRCEL, we focus to offer structured program that provides comprehensive support to the startups, ranging from need assessment, expert mentoring, industry and investor connects, and the startups also get to work on live use cases and get to pitch the solution to the top management of Maruti Suzuki. The selected startups would also get an opportunity to do a paid POC, as Akshay mentioned, along with other benefits and awards. And while we talk about the incubation program, it covers a wide range of areas. If you're working in sectors such as green manufacturing, mobility infrastructure, vehicle technology, data, AI, clean tech, this program is for you. Our objective is to build a robust innovation ecosystem through such strategic collaborations. And by offering a host of benefits and support, we aim to create a significant impact in the society and drive the future of mobility. And as Akshay has said, I would like to reiterate that we have had a successful 3 cohort run, and the applications are now live for cohort 4 for the Maruti Suzuki Incubation Program for Mobility Startups by NSRCEL. Thank you so much. Over to you, Samita.
Thank you so much, Drishti. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the webinar. I will hand it over to the moderator for the evening. Ganesh is the CEO at NSRCEL, and he'll also be moderating the session. Over to you, Ganesh.
Thanks, Sumita. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thanks, Drishti. Thanks, Akshay. Before I get on, a couple of comments on what Drishti and Akshay said while they talked about the red carpet and the opportunity. Their acceptance rate for the program is, I think, between 5 to 7%, depending on which last 4 cohorts, which speaks to a couple of things which are also valuable to the conversation over the next 30, 45 minutes, which is, while there is a lot of innovation in the broader climate, sustainable mobility, specific to the auto sector as well, spaces, covering areas of green manufacturing, green supply chain, a broad swathe of energy, infrastructure, and environment solutions. Many of the ventures that we encounter in this space face some very unique hurdles and bottlenecks. The space is very nascent in the sense business models, revenue models are still gaining acceptance. The technology ecosystem is evolving. Protocols are not standardized yet. Infrastructure and technology capabilities are still evolving. Certification, compliance is a fairly large requirement. And interoperability, especially if you want to be a part of platforms such as, let's say, the Maruti chassis, are critical to even breaking into the sector, not just finding opportunities to succeed and scale. Policy environment is fairly nebulous. Your blood pressure, of course, your valuation, your customer responses change based on what some policy analyst or some policy maker might mention in the passing or in seriousness in page 3 in Economic Times. And that makes a huge difference to the space which is still nascent, which is still finding its shape. And then there are global trends, and we're all looking forward to the next few days of how COP29 shapes up and how the COP26 metrics that were laid down are either picked up or not picked up or pivoted upon. And that has large global implications on us as entrepreneurs trying to create scalable businesses in the sector. So there are global forces, there are local economics that play a part here. And through this incubation, what Drishti and Akshay and their teams will attempt to help us and you founders do is navigate this journey. What we will do over the next 30-40 minutes or so is I will take the help of my esteemed panelists to see how they have navigated this nebulous space, how they have interpreted the mobility ecosystem, how they've constructed their business models in a manner that they believe they are close to or have achieved product market fit and are on a path to scale and market disruption. What is that journey and what are their learnings? Here are the set of conversations that we will have over the next few minutes. The way we'll conduct this is for about the first 30 minutes, I have a set of questions that will help uncover some of these parts with my panelists. And then we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes after that for open questions and conversations with all of you participants. If you've got any thoughts, feedbacks, or questions in the meanwhile, please drop your thoughts in the Q&A on the Q&A chat box. My team and I are monitoring that constantly, and we'll pick up thoughts from that we can bring into the conversation or open up during Q&A. With that, I will request my panelists to maybe spend a couple of minutes giving a brief background to a little bit about themselves, a little bit about their venture and their perspective to how the mobility ecosystem is right now shaping up in the country and globally. We'll start with Amit from Altigreen. Amit, a couple minutes from you.
Yeah, hi, thanks Ganesh. Hi everyone, good afternoon. Couple minutes for a 12-year journey of Altigreen. But in any case, I have a computer science background. I am not a typical automobile major in the e-mobility space. I've had 2 other startups, worked for NASA, for Hewlett-Packard, TCS, Philips, all that. I've had 2 other startups, started Altigreen back in 2012, 2013. The idea was that too many people are losing their lives because of poor air quality related to road transport, and something needs to be done on a war footing. Just so that you guys realize, it's 5 to 6 lakh people every year because of road transport alone, pollution related to road transport alone. Not my figures, Lancet report, IIT Kanpur. 5 to 6 lakh. And 1 lakh people died of COVID. There was a national lockdown. Nothing's happening here. It's happened, will continue to happen until folks like me and the other panelists over here have to take on some of these initiatives. For incumbents to make that happen is very difficult. It's the classic case of exploitation versus exploration, and that's where Altigreen came into being. We started as a drivetrain company wanting to build all the components in India for India. Back in 2013, Atmanirbharta was not a household word in those days. 2013 onwards. Since then, we've innovated. We have 32 global patents granted to us. And then in 2018, we pivoted to become an OEM ourselves. We could have become a 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler, or a tractor OEM. We chose 3-wheelers because you'll be surprised to know, but 40 crore people, 400 million people access a 3-wheeler every day in our country. This is between passenger and cargo. So if I really need to make a difference, and I need to make a difference across the country, this is the path we chose. And since then, we've innovating. Today, Altigreen has about 5,000 odd vehicles on Indian roads, plying in about 120 cities and towns of the country, about 25 odd dealerships, lots of financiers. These are some of the areas that all of you will have to tackle once you become an OEM yourself. So I'll stop here. Rest in questions.
Thank you so much, Amit. Anil, to you, a quick journey of yourself and the journey of Bounce, which, by the way, has been fascinating. As Amit was saying, I don't think 2 minutes might do justice to the kind of journeys you guys have had, but please.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you guys for giving this opportunity to be part of this panel. So I think our journey being an entrepreneur started in 2013. We had 3 co-founders and we continue to be co-founders even till date. So initially our journey started with renting luxury motorcycle rentals because we were passionate bikers and wanted to see how we can create a market space for people who were not well off but still aspired to ride big bikes. So that's how we started off. And then we started focusing on mobility in line to when the metro line started in Bangalore. When metro started, we started hearing a lot of talks around last mile, first mile connectivity, and how that is so much important for an infrastructure like metro to succeed. And that's when we saw an opportunity to see how we can maybe participate and do bring about some change. So that's when we launched Bound Share. Many of you people staying in Hyderabad and Bangalore would have seen these yellow scooters across the city, and I'm hoping and guessing many of you guys would have used the solution also. So it was a solution that enabled people to commute from point A to point B, where they could ride a two-wheeler themselves, and it was the most cheapest and affordable and convenient way of commuting, both for first mile, last mile, and the entire journey also. During just before COVID, we had anyway started work on transitioning all our fleet to electric. We had about 30,000 plus two-wheelers that we used to use on the shared mobility space. Largest till date in terms of a shared mobility player was operated fleet as big as that. But all of them were an IC, and we wanted to move to EV. Unfortunately, couldn't find a good OEM, so we were in the works back in 2018, 2019, building a vehicle for a mobility business. Unfortunately, COVID came in and the entire mobility sector was deeply impacted. And then we had to make a pivot of becoming an OEM, because we felt the form factor is the most important piece in this. As long as the right vehicle is available, the solutions around that can be built. So that's what triggered us to sort of focus on being an OEM during the COVID phase. So we launched our electric two-wheeler in 2021, end of 2021, called Bounce Infinity. So we've been selling scooters from that time till now, and we've been catering to multiple use cases both on the B2B and the B2C side. So that's been our journey. Looking forward for this interaction where I could share more of my insights.
Thank you so much, Anil. Shan, over to you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It feels like coming back home, being an IIM Bangalore alum, and in fact happened to be a coordinator of NSRCEL way back in 2006. So very happy to be back, and you guys are doing a wonderful job. Regarding the journey, I mean, we happen to be coincidentally in mobility space. I'm proud to be an alum of again Bounce during till COVID time. But my journey started as a techie, then into B School consulting, then bunch of startups as well. We were part of a company called JustPay. Some of you may not know, because this is not a B2C company. It is more of a payment infrastructure company which powers the payments in the likes of Swiggy, Book My Show, Big Basket, etc. We always believed in building digital public infrastructure. And way back in 2015-16, we built the first reference implementation for UPI called the Beam app. During demonetization, we launched that app, and it became the catalyst for UPI revolution in the country. And since then, we believed in building population scale technology at utility pricing. How can technology empower people? And in that logic, we also built an open mobility app called the Yatri in Kochi. Then that pretty soon became Namayatri in Bangalore. More than the mobility, I think the problem of empowering service providers like drivers really excited us, and that's how we ventured into this one. But pretty soon realized that the entire mobility from an integration, openness, and sustainability point of view is a massive problem to solve. And today, Namayatri has reached a stage in which it's the first India's first open mobility platform, which is completely driven by community. All the philosophies of DPI is fully baked in, and it is an independent entity today from JustPay. I think more than 5 lakh drivers and close to 1 crore customers. And a couple of days back, in a industry which is heavily competitive with large incumbents, we are proud to have helped the drivers earn more than 1,000 crores of revenue without charging any commission. Our model is technology as a SaaS platform rather than technology as an intermediary. That's where we are today, and happy to be part of this one.
Thank you so much, Shant. So I have a panelist which is working through DPI panel, another who is sort of pioneered last mile connectivity, and a PhD from computer science at NASA. So this is a serious 30-minute conversation. Shan, I want to stick with you based on what you said, and the way you narrated your story. Your sort of early innovation started off by understanding and creating a particular kind of shared infrastructure technology platform. And you've used the technology platform specifically in a shared mobility, cab aggregation kind of business use case. So couple of thoughts there. One is the market that you finally identified, and now that you created 1,000 crores of value, there's absolutely no question of having said that we've more than exceeded product market fit, and you're probably one of the fastest growing aggregator platforms in the country. But that space, even when Namayatri entered, was reasonably well evolved, right? Large competitors, well-structured business models, well-structured market dynamics, pricing, policy, so on and so forth, right? And yet you chose to break in, and you wanted to break in with a proposition which is in even mix, a strong technology-led differentiator based on a digital public infrastructure, and a commercial business model which is provider friendly, as in the auto driver or the cab driver friendly. What led you to that structure, and why, if I had to take you back 3 or 4 years ago, why did you believe that that was a proposition that was worth carrying to break into the market and create value?
Absolutely. I think in a startup, right, I think because a lot of budding entrepreneurs are, I think people in various stages of the startups, I think one most important thing all of them would have realized is what is the pain point or the problem that we are trying to solve for. And I know it's such a simple thing, cliche thing that everybody talks about it, but many a times people get so much caught up on the idea and the product than going to the problem and the specific customers who are actually facing this problem. I mean, while we have launched the DPI, the real insight for us came when we started driving the auto ourselves as drivers. You might see that every 5 years, there is a saying that any major disruption can also get disrupted. Like you can think of this companies like Uber, Ola have disrupted the traditional ride-hailing market. Now there is an opportunity for a new company to come and disrupt the disruptors. You can call this as disrupt the disruptors. The key insight is that when we drove the auto, we realized that driver's side of the story was not fully catered by the existing incumbents. What it means is for a technology platform to charge a 20-30% commission felt unfair from the driver's point of view. And to a large extent, the drivers have to spend 12-14 hours a day continuously. And they didn't have any say, freedom, flexibility, agency in terms of how they are doing their own work. As all of us, right, we want to have some sort of an autonomy in whatever way we are doing it, especially because he is investing in the vehicle, the fuel cost, and a bunch of other things as well. So the drivers felt that they wanted more earnings, more freedom, and a sense of ownership and accountability as well. That's why we said that, okay, India has been a land of building population scale technology, and you can build, let's say, a FASTag or UPI, etc., which has created massive transformation. Aadhaar is another example, DigiLocker, etc. So why not leverage the technology to really add value? So here, value addition is not like, okay, it is 20% better. You have to be 5 to 10x better than an existing solution. And can you bring the community together? Our biggest insight is, okay, I don't want to have a full control on this platform. Let me give it to the drivers. It's up to the driver to own it and then promote it and then make this successful. And Bangalore in that sense has been phenomenal. both the drivers and the citizens were very open to trying out something totally new, which again brought in the best of what we call it a Samaj Sarkar Bazaar. Samaj is your community kind of taking some level of ownership. Sarkar through government only can do sometimes build the dams and the roads, etc. Right? Like that digital public infrastructure with government coming in definitely made a sense. And a private player like us fueling the innovation, attracting the right talent, etc. is where Namayatri happened. But again, it's a very interesting problem that we're working on, but the future is all about integrating this into the mainstream transportation of public transport. That's where I think India's focus on DPI and ONDC will also help us.
Understood. I'm going to press on with one thing that you said in the middle. You said we realized the real problem when we started driving the auto rickshaw. What did you mean by that?
Literally taking the auto as the drivers. Yeah, auto rickshaws as drivers. Continuously, I think together 3 of us would have driven close to 500 trips. Me, my partner, and
Yourself with as
the driver
on your app.
as not just my other apps as well as in our apps. So even now, I think the true insight will come when you try to see. I think building that empathy for the driver, right? How would you build the empathy for the driver? Or even today we talk a lot about customer empathy. In our case, drivers as a customer. So you can get that true empathy when you are actually understanding them better, understanding them and living their life as well many a times, right? So what is the pain point that they are going through and how can you solve it through technology?
I'm going to come back to a couple of those thoughts, but just bear with me for a bit. Amit, I want to come to you with some of the thoughts that Shan said, especially because one of the things you said, which I wrote down, was 32 pages. From cell chemistry to OEM and all the nodes in between. Across the value chain, there is a significant, if I just look at it at an aggregate level, there is a significant dependence on imports and imported either components or technology or assembly and so on, from cell chemistry to OEM and many things in the middle. As an entrepreneur, if you have to take a commercial call on a viable business model, and you might phase it over whatever period of time, you might also, as you also figure where in the value chain you're adding the best value, which is what Shan was saying, that I am hinging my bets on the driver and the driver community becoming the evangelist, and therefore my competitive advantage in structuring the business. In the EV value chain, you've chosen to indigenize almost, if I might say so, completely vertically integrated. Can you help us understand why that decision so early in your journey, and how did it translate into things like unit economics, your pricing model, customer adoption, which are all, once you take that decision, everything sort of waterfalls from that. So share with us a little bit of those.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, when we started back in 2012, 2013, we were a drivetrain company. And why we chose to be a drivetrain company is, please realize that India was amongst the first few countries of the world that had a passenger car, a production-ready full electric passenger car back in 1999. I think over the period of time, over the next decade, 15 years, a lot of work happened there, but we were never able to become one of those countries that had leading cutting edge in terms of either adoption or in terms of technology. And I think to some extent, this was in part because a lot of the components that we were using in different vehicles and lots of two-wheelers and lots of three-wheelers and e-rickshaws and all that, a lot of that was based on imports. And imports were based on components that were built for another geography. They were not built for India's abusive needs. And by that, I mean potholes, dust, pebbles, grime, waterlogging, overloading, anything, right? So all of those are important because when you put them together to make an EV, finally, the electric vehicle has to compete in both price and performance with a fossil fuel vehicle. Now, if I keep putting constraints and I keep telling you, don't do this, don't do that, don't drive so fast, or avoid potholes or avoid water because this is an electric vehicle, that's doing disservice to some new technology that we have created. So an EV has to be better than whatever is available in other technologies. Only then can I expect a person who's coming from 120 years of absolute everything, knowledge about each and every component of the engine to the fuel and gasoline and all that, to a completely different area of uncertainty, where this is electronics, this is battery, you have to charge it, electricity. I mean, will I get all this? Too many uncertainties over here. How do I expect him to move, especially for people whose livelihood depends on it? You know, if it is a second car or a third car or something like that, or a two-wheeler where you can change something else and move into some other area, you still can do it. But if it's livelihood, if the vehicle doesn't perform, you start it and doesn't work, then you've lost that entire day or the next 2 days or the next 3 days doing this. And hence, you know, you have to do a lot. And from our perspective, it was very clear that until these components are built in India for India, you will never have vehicles that will be in a position to compete. And we never started by saying that we'll build the entire stack. We actually took a long time. Like I said, we started in 2012, 2013. In 2018, we decided to become an OEM after we had built all these components. So it was one after the other. We started with motors first. You know, a lot of the time magnets were being imported. We did not want to be dependent on magnets. Similarly, on the controller side, there were fixed controllers, generic controllers. And so a lot of the electronics. Software is a big deal in EVs. And I don't think people are realizing that. Most of them are looking at software as वो तो application, another mobile app or something, what runs inside the vehicle. So a lot of those, and once we started doing that together, you realize you need a gearbox also, because traditional gearboxes can't work in EVs, and hence you need. So everything for us has been driven by that one motive, that we have to be better than a apples to apples diesel vehicle. Only then will I be in a position to sell this, and only then will I be doing justice to a new technology that has been made. To say this is new technology and please buy it because it's good for the planet, I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of making a vehicle that is better than a fossil fuel vehicle. Only then I will say buy it. Of course, you'll have other advantages, be good for the planet, you'll save a lot of money, it's much more comfortable to drive, better grip, better drivability, better good confidence, all those kinds of things. But first, that has to be done, and hence the reason for us to get into it. Very difficult, without any doubt, extremely difficult. And you need to have an ecosystem of partners around you and all that. But once you get down to it, I don't think there's any. I mean, you'll be happy to know, if you leave the cells aside, the lithium cells, which India doesn't manufacture and has to, they have to be imported. Altigreen today has 93% domestic value add. 93% domestic. That 7% are those chips and microprocessors which we have to import, because once again, India doesn't have fab plants. So you get down to it, you can do it. It's very difficult.
I will come to you because you said very difficult, and partner ecosystem, and couple of things that I noted down. I want to touch the same thought with Anil. Your journey has been fascinating, but I want to hold off to history because I think Amit has provoked a couple of things. I will make one confession before I ask you. My family, when you first launched the Bounce luxury ride sharing, my family stoically, every Sunday I would have a fight with my family that I want to hire a Harley for the Sunday and drive around, and they would say, you hit your midlife crisis, nothing doing it correctly. So I must confess, I am your lost customer. So sad. But Anil, how do you look at what Amit has provoked, which is saying that indigenization is integral to strategy and integral to the product promise itself, which is the value I provide. And indigenization as a technology strategy has been integral to the promise of the product I have provided. And when you look at two-wheeler, you have similar problems, right?
Absolutely.
Batteries, 99% of them are imported. Build versus buy, especially in the two-wheeler space, is always tough. Building the chassis and the gantry are extremely capex intensive. How have you taken these decisions when you looked at your two-wheeler design and your product construct? When you started Infinity, what were your choice points?
I mean, the entire premise of we being an OEM was this problem, right? So like I mentioned, we had a large fleet and we had great plans to scale this as we progressed. And we wanted to work with the right OEM who could give us a vehicle that can work in India, right? Because in India, especially for the kind of use case that Bounce used to offer, where one scooter is driven by 8 people, 9 people, and can be used anywhere, however they want, etc. You need the vehicle to be designed, first of all, for an Indian use case, When I say Indian use case, the kind of roads that we see, the kind of riding pattern that we see, the kind of users that we have, the kind of weather that we're exposed to. So you need a scooter that can sort of work in all these scenarios. But unfortunately, we couldn't find any OEM, right? Like in India, outside of India, who was able to do this for us. This is the reason why we had started work back in 2018-19 to build a vehicle ourselves. While we knew it is a difficult one to pull off, but for us, we realized that this was the most important thing for the model, the core model, to sort of succeed. You have to have a good form factor which can work and can consistently deliver the kind of experience that the customer expects, and can also last for the business model to make sense. So our journey of looking at building things ourselves had started very early. Yes, there were a lot of options available. You could easily buy a scooter from China, for example, and use it in India. And you would see a lot of OEMs who have tried doing that as well.
Yes, of course.
Miserably failed, because these are not just designed for India, right? These scooters will not last even for 3 months, 4 months, if you use it in how things are here in India. So you need to build a product that really works for the kind of use case and for the kind of weather condition and the business model that you're primarily using them for. It can be B2B, it can be B2C, right? So you'll have to design the vehicle which suits the kind of usage that you're expecting to use them for. And it's been the same for us. So we were very clear that everything has to be done in India, and it has to be built for what is required for
Sorry,
it.
I will interrupt you, but,
Yeah.
but pardon my being provocative. Was that driven by commercial considerations, patriotic considerations, or customer and road considerations? And I'm not saying A is red and B is green and so on. I'm not passing judgment, but I want to understand your mindset. As a founder, that passion is the most important part of the journey.
For us, the most important thing was the solution should work, right? How you do it is secondary. I'm not saying you can't buy a component from outside of India for India. I'm saying absolutely you can. The most important thing for anybody is, for whatever you are trying to build should work, right? It should work the way you expect it to. Then the secondary motivating factor comes in, right? Does it make sense for you to import things? Does it make sense for you to build things here? What are the pros and cons of doing choosing those options are to be factored. Patriotic things are of course there, and it has to be there. But first is, for you, your business model should also work, right? There is a price that somebody has to pay, and the model should work within that, right? And you can always reach that. It need not be from day one. You can always aspire to be 100% indigenous and do things locally, but might not be possible from day one also, right? But in our case, since we had a lot of background on two-wheeler and how what is the sort of two-wheeler required for India, we were very clear that it has to be built 100% in India, and we have to have complete control over the supply chain of the vehicle. And we should be able to control how the vehicle operates also, because in our case, it is not one single use case, right? When we became an OEM, we wanted to build a vehicle that can be used for multiple use cases. It can't be just termed as, hey, this is only B2B or a B2C sort of a vehicle. We wanted to build a scooter that is robust enough that people can use it for multiple use cases. It depends on what their choice in life is, right? But the vehicle should be able to support for any of those. So that is how we thought. Our reason for localizing everything was to have complete control over the vehicle.
Understood.
Commercially, it was not viable, to be honest, right? The initial phase, when we started off, we were expensive as compared to the others. Even today, there are cheap Chinese scooters that you can buy at 1/3 the cost, right? But
So how do you deal with that? Sorry, I'm interrupting you again, which
Yeah.
is you've taken a particular strategic call on manufacturing and technology. It has implications on go-to-market revenue and pricing. And your market is, even now, while it's still a nascent market in terms of volume or penetration or in two-wheelers compared to ICE and diesel, still it is highly competitive and highly price sensitive, which is exactly what you're saying, right? Even now, you're already seeing price wars when the market is still not fully matured or emergent. How are you balancing the two?
So I think fundamentally, in the long run, you have to make money in whatever businesses that you do, right? You can burn money only to a certain extent, and there are players who are doing that as of today. But then you'll have to also model your business, right? Like what kind of customers will really appreciate the value proposition that you're bringing. Yes, your product is expensive for a reason, right? If somebody is importing from China, anybody can do that, but you are doing something different for a particular reason, because you believe that this vehicle is much stronger, can last longer, it can work for 5 years, 10 years, whatever the promise is, as compared to a vehicle that will work only six months or so. And that is the reason why the vehicle's pricing is higher. You'll have to talk to customers who value and understand this, right? Especially on the B2B side, if you see, people in the last 2 years have burned fingers buying these Chinese scooters because the upfront cost was very cheap and they felt this was a great option for them to adopt. But then soon they realized that these vehicles won't work, and whatever upfront cost benefit that they got is actually not translating to anything, right? And our approach has been to talk to customers who understand these the importance of a vehicle's life, the total cost of ownership, and try and pitch and provide solutions to them. On the B2B side, we have done a lot of work. B2C is still nascent. Like you mentioned, it's quite competitive, and the price wars are going on. We continue to have our presence. Majority of our sales that we have done is B2C, but B2B, we have been working with a lot of players to whom we can explain this, right? Why are you paying a premium, and what will this lead to in the long run? And people are able to realize that. And we've been a fleet operator ourselves, right? We have handled large operators. They take our word for it. They understand that we understand the B2B usage maybe better as compared to other OEMs. And we've been able to structure the entire solution, not just like a traditional OEM selling the vehicle and leaving it there. We partner with them, we work with them to tell them why they are paying a particular premium as compared to the other cheap Chinese options that they have.
Okay. Thank you. Amit, I want to come back to you on what Anil said, because some of the conversation there is also about sort of, if I may say so loosely, assembling the whole product, right? In the EV space, you need charging infrastructure. You need to have a strategy for the battery. Is it charged? Is it swappable? So on and so forth, right? You need to think about service and warranty. You need to have some ability that maybe a local mechanic can, even if you say EVs are lower maintenance, at least theoretically, you need a local mechanic to be able to fix it, or you need to have a reasonable presence of service dealer providers to be able to handle that. And in the three-wheeler category, it becomes even more sensitive because the livelihood depends on it, right? So my time sensitivity, my price sensitivity, and availability in meaningful distance and reach is critical to the product adoption itself. Else, sort of both the reputation and otherwise will rapidly bring a few things down. How have you imagined the whole product? Everything from sort of the battery to the service warranty to maintenance infrastructure. Even if it's the largest penetrated market in EVs today, how does the whole product come together for you?
There's no shortcut. You have to do each of these things because you're not selling technology. You're not selling a vehicle, you're selling peace of mind. And peace of mind comes when you're able to show the entire value chain, right? And in that, there is charging. So good part with charging is that, that's the strange part. I have to mention this, Ganesh. I mean, unlike Sham, I have not delivered goods on my vehicle. But what I did do is, apart from interviewing 1,600 auto rickshaw drivers, what we did is I've actually spent quite a few weeks, months in UP, Bihar, Northern West Bengal, and Sikkim, trying to understand the ecosystem of how e-rickshaw coexists with a D+3 small auto, which coexists with the D+5 or the old Vikram Gramin Seva type. All three exist. In most markets there, they don't fight. They figured out their areas and they do a fabulous job among that area. The beauty is none of them cribs about charging infrastructure. And you know how many of them there are? 3 million e-rickshaws in India already. 3 million. We've never had conferences, we've never had forums, we've never had webinars around charging infrastructure for these players. 3 million over the last 10 years. Every day, in fact, twice a day, most of them charge their vehicles. Regular 220 volt 16 amp socket, no problem, they are charging. You know, when you go to visit these places, people will typically say the same thing, "Arey, wo bijli churate hain, kanta," and all that, you know, the usual stuff. None of that. There are these mohalla level, small street level, you know, park and charge facilities. There's a guy who wakes up at night, charges these vehicles, guaranteed you will get a charged vehicle. But the idea is that when you're talking about an L5, you're talking about a vehicle that may be attached to a Flipkart or an Amazon or a HUL or a Coca-Cola. You need to be there every day, and you need to be in a position to, you know, deliver goods and whatever you need to do. And hence, not only do you need this charging infrastructure, which is available across the country to 20 volt 16 amp socket. What you also need is a way to be able to maintain your vehicles, and hence the need for authorized service stations. So the interesting thing that we realized in three-wheeler space, for example, very few, if at all, come back to the dealership to get repaired. I'm talking about traditional petrol, diesel, LPG, CNG, because there are so many, these mom and pop street oriented. The moment you come to EVs, all these vehicles end up coming to the dealership. Why? Because they're afraid of taking this vehicle to one of those places. What if they mess around? So now the dealer has started making a lot of service revenue. In fact, most of our dealers are making more money in service revenue than they're making in sales. Now, that's a problem for all TV, but I'm generally saying financing of vehicles is a very, very big thing. Until you have good vehicle financing, you can't send commercial vehicles, for that matter, most personal vehicles also. In the three-wheeler space, is even more difficult because the profile of this customer is very different. And hence, you need to get these financiers on board who are willing to finance an EV from a company that is relatively unknown compared to the incumbents. We today have 30 different financiers who are financing a vehicle, including the big guys. Again, coming only because of data. Because now with data, you can pinpoint and say this vehicle, every second you're able to say this is how much, this is where the vehicle is. You've got a button to immobilize the vehicle or a button to mobilize the vehicle again. So financiers feel in control. But to answer your question, you need to be able to provide either through partnerships where you are certain that the partner is going to provide that value. It can't be that, okay, I'm doing these things and I will also help altogether. No, that is their primary job. And if you're able to do that, that's perfectly all right. But I do believe that until you are absolutely certain about every link in this chain, you cannot give comfort to the customer. If you put yourself in their shoes, and if you're willing to do it, then no problem.
Amit, then from a business model construct, two things. One is how much of this is proactive, either effort or investment from Altigreen and the company, and how much is it you expect, the ecosystem will naturally evolve because they're seeing momentum. Also, the way you might pace it out, are there specific tipping points? As in, would you say that, for example, you're right, the e-rickshaws or e-riskas, as they say in Assam and Tripura and others. So the concept is well accepted that three-wheeler electric powered is well accepted. Now the form factors, high payload is an evolution to what exists there. Or is it that you'll identify, or you started by identifying an already dense accepted market and allowing for a particular tipping point before you invest in the support infrastructure?
So
what
that's
was
again,
your sort of early journeys?
It's again a strategy that each individual company has to do. You can start by one city or one region and then expand from there on. We were fortunate to raise a decent amount of money in our Series A, and along with our investors, we were also certain that we want to start with a national footprint, because in the three-wheeler space, it's not that you have dense pockets where you can go and attack those markets or something like that. It is something which is very, very widely distributed. Yes, there are areas where you have more density. In specific cities, you have more density. But we wanted to make sure that we are across the entire food chain. And by that, I mean, it should not be limited only to the metros, because that's more convenient for a startup. But it has to be in metros, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, because mobility in each of these towns on a three-wheeled vehicle is very different. The same vehicle used in Devas is very different from how it is being used in Bangalore or in Delhi. So, but so you've got to provide a solution there, and it has to be done proactively. Otherwise, you're not able to add value in it.
Just because you provoked again, was fundraise an important milestone in the way you looked at your business model strategy, or would it have been, I mean, do I imagine it as a sliding scale? If the fundraise and the quantum didn't happen early on, would I have chosen a different path? Because fundraise, as with many other things, you can't necessarily plan it and say 1st December ko ho jayega, right?
That is absolutely true. And you have to constantly keep changing your strategies. You have to learn. That, of course, has to happen. But I think there has to be a good reason why you want to approach a specific strategy. And you have to be certain about it when you are pitching that. If you're open and you say, sir, if you give me so much money, then I will do this. If you give me so much money, I'll do this. I think that is where sometimes investors also lose confidence that, yaar, ye to matlab, anything goes as long as he gets a little bit of money. I think that is where perhaps I think you should know. They are also banking on the entrepreneur to convince them that this is the right thing to do. They will, of course, make holes and do all kinds of things, but it's your conviction to say, no, this is the only way this will work, and this is the reason why it is working. And you have to convince the other side that, no, this is the right way to do it. Now, had it not happened, had something completely, I mean, for all you know, we might have moved to a two-wheeler, or we might have done something else, or we might have become a regional player. Sure, all those things. And you have to play the game as it happens. We were lucky that it wasn't easy, very, very difficult, especially for a three-wheel company. I mean, three-wheeler is not very attractive as a vehicle, for large investors to say that, yeah, I'm an investor in a three-wheeler company. No, doesn't work like that. But the reality, we are proud of it. And that's how we pitched, and we said that why not? This is the right thing to do. So.
Shan, I'm coming to you. There are two things you spoke about. I want to take them one by one. The first is when you realize that you'd reached a value proposition, if I may, a product market fit, that meaningfully countered a very, very competitive space, and you believed would give you the kind of long runway and traction that you now enjoy. At what point, or what are your triggers to know that you have achieved reasonable product market fit, right? Early customer validation, you spend 500 hours empathizing with the driver, creating, proposition around the driver, creates your early customer validation. Say there is a product that a customer wants, but there is a product that a customer wants which will meaningfully scale and be revenue sustaining, is a different conversation. At what point did you realize that compared to the larger competitors, you've got something that will sustain and grow?
Yeah, I think simple metrics like what is the retention rate of drivers compared to whatever is the industry standards. I think in your case, your end customer, what is the retention rate? What is the sort of an NPS equivalent metric, which is what is the likelihood of them bringing their fellow customers through word of mouth, through lesser marketing, right? If you're able to grow without too much marketing in mobility, that's an indication that, okay, you have created some value for your end customers. And if you're able to consistently grow, despite, let's say, competition throwing in more money and people at the same problem. I think we are again proud to say that after Namayatri changed the model, many of the incumbents have changed the model, which has really benefited the drivers. Definitely, it increases the competitive intensity for a smaller startup like us, but ultimately it benefited the drivers and the passengers as well. I think the real metric is, are people loving the product? And when you speak to the customers, you will know, are they talking about only the areas of improvement? Is there some sort of an emotional attachment to the product that they are having? And are they continuing to sticking to the product despite a massive incentive being given by the competition? Let's say these are indicators. I think once you cross a 5-10% market, we felt that this is a market which is not going to be only monopolized by one or two players. Yes, there is always network effects and network benefits, especially for the larger players. But we felt that there are areas, niches, there are segments of users which is underserved. While it looks like in metros like, let's say, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, that's like most of the bookings are happening through apps. But what we realized is that India's mobility penetration was as low as 6-7%, which is even lower than organized retail or ticketing, etc. We felt that the tier 2 public transport, shared mobility use cases which are not covered by some of the incumbents definitely need innovation. And there, the technology as a moat is very important, and you will have to do the UPI moment there. You will have to offer MDR, zero MDR equivalent of that, at least for the small ticket sizes, and you will always find out some means of monetizing it for a separate segment, but there will always be volume drivers where you'll have to offer massive value. So for us, right, I think we are able to reduce the technology cost with 10 years of just space experience, number one. Okay, this is a sustainable model. It's not like I'm just going to play a shorter game. And second is the love from the customers and the retention. Are you able to sustain after monetization, after competition, acting to your own strategy? That's an indication that, okay, this has the potential. That doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy journey ahead. I think it'll be the problem was universal, is what we realized. This service providers being marginalized, or them not having a say, or them continuing to be squeezed by these closed platforms. That's the problem that we took. And integrating public transport, which doesn't seem to be the focus areas for some of the larger companies as well.
Do you look at the metrics that people would typically look at, like CAC has to be a certain percentage of gross margin and acquisition cost has to be a certain percentage of repeat buy? There are these metrics that at least the investors look at, and I do hope we look at during our incubation. Do you also look at some of these metrics to understand that there is natural organic momentum in a, let's say, a new market that you've entered or gone into? Because each market would have its own competitive dynamics, right? Bangalore behaves in a certain way, but Mysore behaves in a completely different way, possibly.
No, absolutely. I think you'll have to bother about all of that if you have to spend a lot of money on marketing. I think ideal is, okay, if the product works without marketing. If it's a longer journey, it's a harder journey. You have a higher probability of being killed, especially if you don't spend on marketing, etc. But I still remember the days of Bounce. You put the scooters, people will start using it, and they will start downloading the app, etc. Because it was solving a problem which nobody has solved it before. I think it's about choice of the problem, how well you are solving it, and what is your differentiation, which is not easily copyable at the same time. It's not something that you are temporarily doing it, right? It's something that you'll have to do it long term. See, all these metrics we'll have to track. I think, again, of course, we track what is the retention, what is the CAC. If not, we don't spend on marketing as discounts, offers, etc. So from day one, we said that we'll not give any discounts or offers. If the driver wants to give a discount, he can give it, right? I think we are not even providing the driver service. It is the driver service. Driver has to take a call. And if a product doesn't sell because of lack of marketing, it's better that it fails faster than you getting an artificial sense of euphoria that, okay, it is working. So that's a path that we have taken. Failing faster is better, so that it puts a higher bar on our product thinking and problem solving. Yeah, hope it answers.
Helps, but I wanted to ask Anil to bounce on it, if I may. Anil, how do you look at CAC in your domain? Also knowing the sort of competitive intensity, price wars that we're seeing right now, how do you look at the role of cost of acquisition and how you manage that?
Maybe I'll share some experience of the bond share days and also the OEM bit, because these are metrics that we used to very closely track. In fact, Shan was leading demand for us, so his team would track these metrics really closely, and it was really exciting to also track and see how these numbers grow. So for us to know whether the product market fit is working, for us there were real numbers that we could see. One was the vehicle utilization, second was retention, like Shan mentioned, and also to see how the overall experience of the customer is, right? Like we used to track metrics like how many new users would get added onto your platform and how many of them were coming on through reference as against a marketing spend that we used to do. And for us, majority of them were coming through reference as compared to marketing. We used to spend a lot of money on marketing, that is there, but still, we ended up getting a lot of users through referral, right? That tells a story that there are enough people who are liking your solution, and they're also telling friends and family that, hey, why don't you try it? it's working for me, I'm sure it will work for you as well. And I think it is something that you will know whenever you run a business. You will know whether there is a product market fit. It's not very arbitrary, which it is not very opinion driven, saying, let's say one guy says it is there and the other guy says it is not there. I think when product market fit happens, you will know for sure that your business is taking off. And then what is important at that time is to understand the levers that now you use, that you will have to play for you to scale faster and higher. For us, it was just supply during mobility days. Once we realized that there are enough people using the vehicle, we just had to give them enough vehicles and also work on customer experience and reliability, etc. um, on the mobility side, I think here also you'll have to, while bound share is like a easy decision for a user to make, for buying an electric vehicle is a longer decision, right? So it's not going to happen at once. You will have to touch the user at various point of his journey, from discovery stage to convincing stage.
Yep.
Then pitching, meet him coming to the showroom itself, right? It's a big deal, and from there,
So classical customer journey marketing.
yes. So it's a very different industries to what it used to be and what we do today. But yes, these are things that are important. Some core metrics like CAC and how many customers are walking into your dealership in proportionate to the amount that you're spending. These are things that we also track. But I think these are important metrics for any business, for you to know what stage you are, basis which you determine the strategy that you adopt. If you have hit product market fit, then your strategy and the way you react will be very different,
Quickly different.
compared
Yep.
to a early stage, right? So it's important for you to know where you're in the journey, and then accordingly strategize.
Thank you. I'm going to take a few questions that some of our participants have put down in the Q&A chat. There are 3 or 4 questions around competitive acquisition. Right? How do you acquire customers when it's highly competitive and there are established players? And I'm going to maybe crystallize that into two-part question. One is when you're attempting to acquire market share from a competitor. The other is when you are attempting to convince a greenfield user, if I may, to adopt a more environment-friendly platform. And both may have nuanced approaches to customer acquisition. If you could share how you guys have approached customer acquisition, greenfield and competitive. Maybe Amit, if you want to go first, yours is a slightly different market. All 3 of you are very different markets, but if you want to go first on your approach to customer acquisition marketing.
Yeah. So we are, direct in the face. We don't do any ATL at all.
You don't do any ATL at all?
It's all BTL. We go
even
to
Namayatri does some ATL. You can see Namayatri on auto.
We don't have paisa, yaar. We don't have money at all. We have money for chai party.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Sorry, please go on. You don't do ATL is actually a revelation. Yeah.
No, it's just that, I mean, how do I get to my the guy who's buying the auto, right? How do I get to him? I don't want to do that through advertisement. And this is commercial vehicle. This is a cargo vehicle. We started with cargo vehicles, right? When we get to passenger, perhaps. But cargo vehicles were very clear. These auto rickshaw guys, or the guys who are driving these, they come to these sabji mandis at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And that's, a meeting place. A lot of these stops, they're parked. So honestly, that is our catchment area. This is where our sales guys, dealership guys will go to these places. We have these handouts there itself. They'll do a quick, drive with the vehicle. Quick, these guys, they know their stuff, man. They sit in the vehicle and immediately they will say ki, हाँ ये ठीक है, चलो अब हाँ pickup ठीक है. उसके बाद they'll do a 100-meter thing. They'll come back and they'll ask for the showroom address. And next thing you know is, I mean, that's the only way. Then for reference customers, we'll have our customers, talk to other customers, call them over to the dealership for chai and samosa. That happens on a Sunday when they're typically not driving. I mean, these little things that we do all these melas where you can, sell your old vehicle and buy a new electric vehicle. And for that, there are other campaigns that even financiers join us. whether it's a State Bank or an HDFC or a Sundaram or a Shriram Finance will join us in those campaigns. So it is very, very physical. It's very touch-based. We have seen limited success even when we go to YouTube, because these days most of these guys are sitting and just scrolling on their phones.
Yep.
So we try to do that. We also did a few other things. It's interesting. You do get calls and walk-ins, but I think the real conversion, the rates that we see are much higher when you've had a physical contact with these guys. There's a certain amount of confidence that it's a ulti green. Matlab, for the longest time, a person came to us and said, "Sir, you are doing so much in electric vehicle space. Why you call yourself anti-green?" Sir, it is not anti-green.
So sweet.
So it's,
But if I could push you, Amit, how would you even get the traffic to your customer meetups? Right?
So
You've got to get.
Yeah, so you go to a mandi, right? They're there.
Okay.
So you go to a
Got
auto
it.
stop, or there are specific places in the city where you can rent a cargo
Fantastic.
vehicle, right? If you want to move or do something, there are specific stops where you will find these vehicles. So you can go to them.
I'm again pushing you.
Yes,
Maybe
yes,
when you started off this
Yeah.
model of sort of what I would call micro marketing, go to clusters where you see customers aggregate and create your visibility and presence there. But as you have scaled today, do you see similar marketing vehicles for acquisition work?
So I must take a step back there. So we started off by being a B2B guy alone. So we were
Okay.
selling only to fleets.
Okay.
It's much easier to convince them. There's a guy who wants 200 vehicles. I'm willing to supply those vehicles. There's an SLA. There's all kinds of things. And we sign up and we say, okay, go ahead. So that allowed a certain visibility to some of these guys, the B2C guys, the driver owners, to see those vehicles and say, "Acha, aapki wo wali gaadi hai. The orange valley, a green valley." We had all these colors which are very different compared to everyone else, and you could identify those vehicles. So in some of these places, we got that advantage, right? As we go forward, obviously, we realize that when it comes to passenger vehicles and when it comes to a deeper penetration that we need to do across India or across specific regions, it's clear that we will have to invest in brand building exercise. We don't intend to have a brand ambassador. In fact, we have created a superhuman character, which is called Bijli. So, and that Bijli has a slogan, Bijli, मैं हूँ बिजली, बाकी गए तेल लेने. So we do that. Seems to have
Love it.
triggered something in people. So yeah, well, I think depending on the phase, you choose to pick what you want, and hence.
I think Anil, you've shared some of the way you've done customer acquisition and customer journeys. But Shan, when you started off, you said the drivers are your evangelists. Let me be a skeptic for 2 minutes. Of course, I ended up using your product simply because of word of mouth. But I think I'm a skeptic there. Pure word of mouth from providers being your vehicle for customer acquisition. Tell us more. How have you acquired customers? And in your case, switching costs might have been very critical. How do you get end customers to switch off from other aggregator providers onto your platform? What were the approaches you used?
No, I think you highlighted it. The drivers as the evangelist. This is in fact the reason why we called it Namayatri, is to say that the customers are drivers' customers, not my customer. And that's why the app was also called Namma Customer. I think Yatri roughly translated as traveler. And in fact, they have taken it up their own initiative, and they have whatever you said about pasted at the back of the auto, etc. Many of them we didn't have to pay the money. It's in fact the driver's initiative, and the pricing that we have promised as a subscription fee. We ask them how much you will be willing to pay, which you think is fair, which you will not eat into this thing. So it's working backwards. So okay, they are saying 25 rupees per day. My cost when I started was close to around 30-40 rupees per trip. But if I have to make that cost for 10 trips, then how do I reduce my cost? Working backwards and then making it work. So if this is the cost that I will incur and this is what is going to be given to the driver, I don't have anything left for marketing. So it's more of a survival strategy. Okay, what else can we do? But drivers wanted a solution like this. I think they wanted a platform which gives them more freedom, more earning, more flexibility, etc. So then, okay, there's only option is, okay, if you guys treat this as your solution, there is a potential of this becoming a alternate to that. That doesn't mean that you don't spend anything on marketing at all. Of course, you'll have to trigger initially, let's say, an auto vehicle branding, or a little bit of social media marketing. And again, here we also leverage community members from the citizen side. So a little bit of new age marketing. I wouldn't say like it is proven, sorted in all the cities, right? I think
Fair enough.
we are still in
Fair
the
enough.
process of figuring it out.
Understand that.
And I think there are areas like government partnerships which is working out well. While it is called Namayatri here, we are not tied up to having a concept of a single brand for across the country mobility. But for few people in this call that who might travel across the states, most of the people like to use it for their own travel, daily commute needs, etc. So it's a very localized, state-specific, city-specific, market-specific solution. So in Kolkata, it's called Jatri Sati.
Yeah.
And the government used this as a welfare initiative to digitize yellow cabs, the iconic yellow cabs, which is most of the drivers don't even have a smartphone, etc. So it became an initiative to drive, and it was a very niche segment. There's nothing to compete with the existing players. It was digitization. So in that sense, in fact, after Namayatri came in Bangalore, the percentage of digitization has gone up. So it is acknowledged by all the competition and even various associations as well. That okay, we are not just taking away the share from someone else. We are essentially creating a market, which normally drivers wouldn't have taken it in the app. Today they find this is viable because of the different business model altogether.
Okay. The audience, if you've got any more questions or thoughts, please put them in the Q&A chat. You've got probably about another 5 minutes to last. Shan, I want to stick with you. There are a couple more questions that overlap with what you said. You said the partnership with government. There was also a couple of questions on the partnership and building ecosystem. And also a related question that the way I interpreted, which is the role of open APIs, which is also a community created asset, right? A community created technology assets, the way you work with ONDC and DPI infrastructure, open APIs, Google Maps, and so on. One is how have you seen the role of any form of these community effects, whether working with physical partners like the government or with technology networks and open APIs in your business model and strategy?
Yeah, I think
as in, did you proactively go and seek them out? Did they happen, and therefore you chose as in versus in a build or buy option? You're saying I'd rather use an open API and an infrastructure than build one on my own. How are those choices made?
No, it was not a choice. The reason we got into mobility is because of
your origin lies there. Yeah, that's your origin story.
Yeah. I think we got inspired by Dr. Pramod Verma, who's the chief architect of Aadhaar. He said that SMS and email today, it works on an open protocol. Anybody can send it to anyone. Why is mobility not like that? He wrote a protocol himself, called it Beacon,
of course.
in 1920. And we felt that it's an amazing thing, like how UPI has created that massive revolution. We felt that this has the potential, and that's how we entered in. ONDC came in after that as an implementation, built a lot of things on top of Beacon. So today, I think the world is moving from closed platforms to open platforms. Let's say Visa, MasterCard to UPI, and all these will coexist as well. It's not like serving different customer segment, different use cases as well. We believe that for certain India-specific solutions will emerge in an open protocol model. And what it enables is more transparency, trust, and more collaboration as well. For example, Redbus can become a buyer app. We call it buyer app and seller app. So an Namayatri driver can serve a request coming from a Redbus user, or a Paytm user can book an auto or a cab in Delhi for my Yatri cabs there. So essentially, the concept of an open network is that it's unbundled so that everybody goes and focus and does what they are good at. So that, let's say, customer acquisition doesn't have to be done by me if my focus is on driver empowerment. So that's the broader philosophy. Of course, I think the future prospects of ONDC is also on bringing in categories which is underpenetrated today. Maybe urban mobility, public transport, etc. These are areas that they are heavily focusing on, and hopefully it will scale in a big way.
And if you could spend a little bit of maybe a minute on how your partnerships with the government have played out. Have they been proactive, reactive? What is the nature of striking those relationships, especially in the mobility, broader climate tech space? The involvement of government, any form of policy is critical to scale. What have been your experiences on that relationship?
Yeah, I think a government doesn't mean that you can take shortcuts in terms of solving the problem. I think, in fact, there is harder work that you'll have to do in terms of ensuring that whatever you're doing is fair, clean, transparent, etc. I think what is extremely positive for us, and we felt very good about, is like there are a lot of excellent bureaucrats and government officials who are very passionate about making a change and wanting to work with startups. The kind of pace, the way at which we work, the agility, etc. The tech part, right? They love it, and it's a right kind of mixture. I think what government brings into.
I'm going to interrupt you there because the conversation is on business models. So you're saying the strategy is to find a progressive government official. Tough
See, it is
ask.
not
That's why I'm asking you, right?
See,
if I were in the space and said, let me find an IS officer, private secretary who's passionate about mobility and climate tech, that's a tough strategy to follow. If God is kind, it will happen. But
no, I'm not saying that is the strategy. I'm saying that the strategy has to be solving a core problem for someone and doing it better than or creating value, right? I think that is the core focus of problem, and value creation has to be at the core of everything that you do. Sometimes GTM, right? I think a lot of companies will say that I don't want to work with government, right? I think you ask any of the mobility companies, I think at least the space that the guys that we are competing with, they will all say that I don't want to work with government. It is very hard to work with government. But what an open network enabled, what a open protocol, open source model, right? Today, all our software is open source as well. That enabled is like government willing to partner with a company like us. In most of the partnership that we have done, it's a pull-based model that we having any, okay, even till today, we don't have a government relationship person per se, right? I think we literally have been approached by people purely because of the way our cost structure and how the value has been created for the drivers as well. I think if we stay true to value creation and solving the problem well, I think Indian government is way too progressive when it comes to DPA and making a good progress on mobility, transportation, and
Agreed. Amit, Anil, together, there's an interesting question for you. And I'm just going to read the question as is. How does Amit and Anil look at the threat of substitutes, considering EVs threatened by hydrogen fuel cell or other disruptions today? Which is, as you looked at your business model and there are competing technologies that may evolve, how do you interpret that from your own business journey?
Yeah, I think we have realized this from the day we started, which is why our solutions are not bound by a particular technology, right? For example, from day one, we were clear that our batteries should always be removable, because we always knew that the battery tech is fast evolving and you can't assume that the same technology will continue forever, right? So technology will continue. We'll definitely get better solutions, better efficient solutions, which we'll have to keep a watch and also factor those where if there is a change, you should be able to adopt that which is in a favorable way than being suddenly stuck without being.
So you're seeing it is more a potential adoption and pivot
Absolutely.
path than a technology sort of disruption threat.
Absolutely. See, any solution at the end of the day, it has to be something that is bringing about a positive change, right? And if there is a technology like that, you will have to adopt to it because to the larger benefit of the consumers. So how do you factor that and build your solutions is absolutely important, and that's how we have been thinking from day one. The product has been quite modular, so we know whenever there is a change in technology, we adopt to it. As we speak, the same scooter that we have can work with battery swapping operators, can work with home charging, can work with batteries of different dimensions.
Wow.
And you don't have to worry about charging infra because the battery is removable, which means you can carry, you're staying anywhere, you park your scooter anywhere, take it and charge it anywhere. So these are things that we realized are going to happen, primarily because of the learning that we have had operating two-wheelers at scale. And that's how we have designed our solutions as well.
Amit, your thoughts, and especially because you, at least, I don't know if still today, but in your early days, you went head on against LNG and CNG, right? If I remember right,
Yep.
in your evolution journey. So you actually sort of evangelized a migration out from CNG and LNG to three-wheeler EVs. How do you see technology evolving? Do you see it as an adoption, a threat, a complement?
Yeah, so I mean, there will always be alternate fuels. I mean, even today there's ethanol, there is talk about ethanol, there's hydrogen. I think as founders, we have to be, as promoters, as entrepreneurs, we have to be mindful of that and figure out, you have to be able to look a little further down to figure out whether that particular energy source will have an impact on your kind of vehicles. Obviously, it's going to have a much, like for example, like hydrogen, it's going to have a much larger impact on trucks and long haul trucks and buses and those kinds of things. Will you ever find a solution that is capable of making a difference in the three-wheeler space? If we are, then we should be early in that so that we can provide something.
Nice.
Where are we coming from? Our larger motivation is carbon-free transport. So if anything works within that purview, then I would want to ensure that I have tried it, tested it, and can I make a viable product out of that will compete in price and performance with existing technology. And if it can, then we should be there. Or we can decide, well, it's like saying that I will work only on a CNG three-wheeler. I don't care about diesel, petrol, or LPG. I will work only on CNG. It's your choice. It's up to you. But these are just energy sources, and we will have to figure out if you want to incorporate them or not. We will have many more of these.
And is that form factor, payload, and fuel type sort of equation important in your consideration? As in long haul, four-wheeler, hydrogen, the way you said it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Each of them makes sense only for specific kind of use cases, because I mean, each one requires a different kind of chassis and security and safety, and all that has to be built in. Plus, where all do you find these stations? How quickly will they be commercialized? You have to realize this, that for long haul you don't need to have 25 different charging stations or whatever, hydrogen stations in every street intersection. Bangalore, for example, has 400 gas stations. Gas, I shouldn't say petrol, diesel, LPG, CNG station. 400. How do you get to that enormous number, right? Because and until then, will you land up having to deal with this problem of interoperability or swapping batteries? And so there are lots of these use cases you have to determine, and you have to be able to think like your customer to figure out, yeah, mere liye kya hoga? Once again, it's not technology, it's not a vehicle, it's peace of mind you're selling. And if you are within that equation, if you're able to figure out and say that, yes, this falls under the preview of that, it's going to work. Otherwise, just walk away.
Thank you.
Lots
By the way,
of
I don't know if you guys realized it. We've been talking for over an hour. I didn't realize until just now. My thanks and my apologies. I've taken far more than the budgeted time with you guys. Shan, Amit, Anit, thank you so much. The three big things I learned in the last 1 hour of very exciting, very energetic call. The first is the entire conversation of how you define the market, the size of the market, the dimension of the market have a very critical role to play in how you define your business model and so on. It's interesting that each one of you chose a particular, very nuanced technology path to way you approached your business design and your product design, to the extent that Shan actually called technology as a moat, which is very interesting thing to say, especially when you're in a consumer-facing market, right? And the way you imagine the role of technology and technology roadmap was very fascinating for me to hear. The third is the conversation around complementary ecosystems, whether you look at public infrastructure or building support systems and service providers and service technicians to your ecosystem, or enable word of mouth and marketing through communities. The entire value of working with the community and working with an existing ecosystem to create natural momentum was fascinating learning for me. Audience, I know there were a few questions I've not been able to take, but if you're comfortable dropping a note to us at NSRCEL, we're happy to address some of them with the panelists. Amit, Shan, Anil, thank you so much for the time you've taken. Deeply appreciative of the conversation and your candid feedback and thoughts on the way you've evolved your business. I do hope my audience has found it as valuable as I have. Thank you so much. Akshay,
thank you.
Samita, over to you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Ganesh, and thank you to all our panelists for taking the time out to join in the session today. You guys spent over an hour engaging our audience and immensely helping them out with such hands-on advice and also experience from your own journeys. So we cannot thank you enough for taking the time out to do this for our founders. We hope to host you all at NSRCEL in person one day very soon. Until then, thank you so much. And for all the founders who've joined us today, thank you as well for attending the panel. You can reach out to us at NSRCEL social media at imb.ac.in for any queries. And just a reminder for everybody, you can also check out the mobility program at NSRCEL that might be quite relevant for you if you found this discussion also relevant, if you've learned anything today, any of the takeaways. Maybe the mobility program is a good fit for you. Do check it out, do apply. And yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening, guys.
Bye.